Hey everyone, it's the Monday Master here. Today I'm going to walk you through a beginner level introduction to Monday.com, what it is, how it can help your business, and show you how to set up your first workflow in the form of a project. If you like this video, don't forget to like and subscribe for more Monday.com guides and time-saving tips that I'll continue to release in the future. First, we're going to start on the Monday.com website. What is Monday.com? So, from a high level, Monday is an all-in-one work management platform that will help you organize not only your projects and tasks, but any type of process or workflow all in one place. So, not only is Monday good for projects, but any type of work that can be managed by any type of department internally at your organization, which in turn means Monday can be used wall to wall for any type of process, and it's going to make it easy to plan, track, and collaborate with any members of your team. It has customizable boards, automations, and integrates with tools you already use, so it's going to adapt to the way that you work, ultimately saving you time and keeping everything organized. To get started, click on the Get Started button on their website. It's going to take you through a series of questions to get your account set up. I already have mine here, which we're going to start with. We have the home page here, what you see when you first log into the platform. We're going to get on the same page first with some of the vocabulary that is used within the Monday.com platform that it will be important to know throughout. So to start, you have what are called your recently visited section. This is in reference to your boards, your dashboards, and your documents. We're going to focus on boards today. I'll make another video in the future about documents and how you can use them. Boards are where all of your data and your processes are going to live. A few examples of what boards can be. It can be a project. It can be your sales funnel. It can be your recruiting pipeline. It can be your onboarding tasks. Again, all of your processes will live in a board. You then have dashboards. Dashboards allow you to create views of the information or of the processes in your boards in a way that will allow you to make data-driven decisions for your business. We'll create a sample dashboard towards the end of the video today. Underneath that, you have your update feed or your inbox. Monday is all about communication and collaboration with context. Monday is going to allow you to communicate right within the context of what you're working on. So you no longer have to go searching through Slack channels or email messages to find information about a task or a project or any process, as it will live right within that process in Monday.com. Anything relevant to you as the user logged in, it will aggregate to this homepage here so you can easily find it and respond back in a timely manner. The highest level of hierarchy within Monday.com is what we call workspaces. So workspaces, think of this as your virtual filing cabinet. Workspaces contain your boards, your dashboards, and your documents. Typically, they're broken down by department or cross-functional workflow that incorporates multiple departments. Notice I have workspaces for my finance team, my human resources team, marketing and operation, really showing the versatility of Monday and how it can be used by a variety of different departments and processes. So once you're in a workspace, by default, when you log in, you'll have one called the main workspace. There's a few different ways to go about creating processes or creating boards in Monday. So you'll click the blue plus button in the top left-hand corner here. It's going to give you this drop down. You can then select from importing data from Excel or Google Sheets, which is commonly used by teams that don't have a software like this in place today. Provides you with an easy way to migrate some of your processes into the platform and get started that way. I'll create another video showing how to import exactly from Excel and the best ways to go about doing this. There's also a template center with a number of pre-built, yet still fully customizable templates that you can get started from. Again, this screen shows the versatility of Monday and how it can be used by a variety of different departments for your team internally, from marketing to PMO to your sales team, product, operations. Any department can use the platform for their needs. These templates may not necessarily be an exact copy of how you manage a certain process, but the whole idea of Monday is that it's flexible and easy to tailor and adopt the way that you go about working. And you'll see how easy this is through the third way that you can create a board, and that is to do so from scratch. When creating a board from scratch, you'll be prompted with a few different questions on screen and to think about as you're building your boards. First, you're going to name your board. So let's start with a simple example. We'll call this our project example. You're then going to get the opportunity to select the privacy of this processor board. Is it main, meaning visible to everyone in your account? Private, for working alone or with a certain selected number of team members? Or is it shareable for working privately, but with guests that are external to your account, that you only want to see this process? So think freelancers, contractors, maybe it's your clients. Once you select your privacy, you're then going to select what you're managing in the board. The default is what is called an item, but you'll see the content of an item change depending on what the process is and what you want to manage. So if you were to be managing your sales funnel in Monday.com, an item might represent a lead. If it's your post-sales process, the item could be a client. Since we're managing a project, in this case, it might make sense to choose items as tasks. So we'll start there, and we're going to go ahead and create our board. A board will now load for me. It is bare because we are starting from scratch. First, we'll call out our item. That is what is highlighted and moving horizontally across our screen here. These could be leads if we were managing our sales funnel. Since we're managing a project, each will represent a task, so they're going to be renamed as such. You're then going to notice a color-coded section that moves vertically across your screen. They're called groups. Groups are how you organize or categorize the work that you're managing in this process. Going back to the example of our sales funnel, these groups could be new leads, working leads, or qualified or unqualified leads. Maybe since it's a project, we'll call this phase 1. We'll call this next group phase 2. And a common theme for customization in Monday.com is going to be a plus button. It will appear in a few different areas. Each will be called out. The one in the bottom left-hand corner here is to add a new group, which will be called phase 3. You can change the color of these groups to whatever colors that you like that fit within the aesthetic that your team is looking for. So now you have your tasks grouped out into your phases. The next thing to consider is what information do you care to track about each of your tasks? That will be captured in what are called columns that move horizontally in line with each of the items. The most frequently used column types are pre-built from scratch, but you can add and delete these columns very easily to ensure that you're tracking exactly the data that's relevant for you. First, calling out those most frequently used column types, we have the person column. This is what allows you to layer in accountability to the workflow and assign individuals to the work. You can assign a single person. You can assign multiple people. You can even assign a team of people, all up to how that work is distributed. You can rename any of these columns as well to ensure that you're using language or vocabulary that's most familiar to your team. Next, you have a label column, which in this case is giving us indication into progress, but you'll see it repurposed multiple different ways to give you another opportunity to add categorization to your work. Maybe you have a label column that indicates the priority of the task. Maybe it's an indication into the task type, whether it's internal or external. Notice I can edit these labels and add new ones as are necessary for the indications that I need for my work. We'll call this ready to start. We'll add another label for upcoming steps and one more for on hold. And can change the color here as well. And maybe I want to select each of these tasks and change them all to upcoming steps. What I can do is Command A on my keyboard, which will select all my tasks, and I can add them all as upcoming steps. We then have a date column, which is pretty straightforward. It'll give you indication to any type of date value that you need: created date, due date, completed date. As said before, you can delete columns that aren't relevant. So if I wanted to get rid of my date column, I can click these three dots here. I can click delete and it'll be gone from my workflow. Next, that will be the second area that the plus button appears in my account. That is our column center. Instead of adding a new group, this plus button adds a new column or a new piece of information that you care to track within your project. So there's a lot of great data types that you can select from, or column types. So there's that people column where you can assign individuals to the work, the label column where you can categorize with custom labels. You're not limited to just using these columns once. You can use them multiple times. So for example, if you need another person column to be the manager of the person that's assigned to do the task, where somebody's doing the task and somebody needs to review the work that is done. It's a great use case for using another people column. Maybe instead of a date column, we'll use a range of dates. So we can add in some sample data here, 16th to the 19th, 23rd to the 26th. Maybe we'll add in a numbers column that we actually want to connect with our timeline. So we can click three dots of the timeline here and connect it with a duration. It already pre-selects our number column, and then we'll rename our number column to be duration. You can pick your unit. In this case, it obviously makes sense to have our unit represented as days, and now it will show us the amount of days that each line item is. Maybe there's a certain flow that needs to be followed for your project. That is where you can add in a dependency column. You can choose your dependency mode, flexible, strict, no action. Select the column for the item dependencies, in this case, the timeline. We'll go ahead and save that. Now we set our dependencies. We can say task 2 is dependent on task 1, task 3 dependent on task 2. We'll add in maybe another numbers column. Maybe instead of just duration, maybe we want to see our planned effort for a task. And again, you can choose a custom unit. In this case, instead of days, maybe we'll use hours. Since we're planning effort, maybe we want to also track that effort through a time tracking column that can be started and stopped using a timer. You can add sessions manually. I worked on the 8th for an hour and add that session, or we can use automation to track this, which we will go through in a second. You may be familiar with formulas in Excel. Monday offers something similar, except you're manipulating data horizontally in line with each of the items. So we can say we planned this amount of effort, but we actually tracked this amount of hours. Show us the difference there. So when it comes to a future similar project, we'll have a better idea of how long something's actually going to take us based on previous projects of the same nature. Then maybe we'll throw in another date column. This is going to be our completion date, which we're going to set through automation. We're going to add in another formula column here, add in a little bit of complexity to our formula to show the scope of what is actually possible here. We'll call this our completion status. I have this formula pre-saved on my other screen. I'm just going to paste it in. And we're going to see that updated automatically for us once we start our project. And then one final column here is going to be our files column. Of course, everybody needs documentation. You can pull it from your computer, a Monday doc, which we talked about at the beginning. We'll go through in another video, or you can pull it from a link or some other drive that you might already be using today with your team. You can link to as well. So you can continue to add columns as are necessary. For this example, we'll stop there. A quick recap, the whole process being managed is a project. Each line item is a task. We've grouped them into different phases, and our columns are capturing the information that are important for us about our tasks or our items. As mentioned previously, communication and collaboration is a big piece of Monday.com, and all of that is going to live within the context of whatever you're managing. Each line item has a speech bubble that, when opened, brings us to what we call as our update section. This is where you can communicate with your team. You can mention other team members. They can come in, reply back. So again, communication lives right within the context of the item, the task, whatever you're managing, not lost in some email thread or some Slack channel. The board itself also has an update section that will apply to the entire project as a whole. Now, moving on to the third area that you're going to see the plus button appear in your account. It is going to be in the top left-hand corner, and instead of adding a new group or a new column, this one is going to add a new view. What you're looking at currently is the table view, very similar to the structure that you may be familiar with if you're using Excel. Monday offers a variety of pre-built views, meaning that you can select them and it will manipulate the pre-existing table view into the selected type of view. Since we have dependencies involved, we're going to go ahead and select a Gantt chart view. It will move our tasks that have data in them, of course, that can fit on a timeline into a Gantt chart view and show us the relationship between them. You can still interact with these views, so you can drag and drop. You can click in and see the information related. You can even make these views a little bit bigger, so I can go ahead and dock that widget so it's the entire view. You can also filter views. So maybe you don't need to see all the tasks at once. You can create another table view. Notice it gives you the opportunity to name it. So we're going to make this a tasks assigned to me view, and we're going to filter it down. We're going to use this filter button here to say, show me where the owner is me. And we're going to use the dynamic filter, meaning it's going to change according to the person viewing this board, making this view that I'm custom creating applicable for anybody that views it. As when I open this view, it's going to show the tasks that are assigned to the person that's viewing the board, not anything more or anything less. So we can save it to this view, and now we're only going to have to see tasks that are assigned to us. We can even hide columns in these views as well. So maybe I don't need to see everything in my working view. Maybe I don't need to see the difference in what I've tracked. Maybe I don't need to see the completion date or the completion status, as that's going to be done via automation. Notice it gets rid of those columns, and I can even save it to this view, but I always have my main table to go back to if need be. Now we're going to move on to the automations. This is where Monday.com users save the most time and get the most out of their investment in the platform. As automations do things automatically. They get rid of the mundane administrative tasks that take up your team's time, giving them more time to focus on actually doing the work. So you can eliminate having to update people that they're now responsible for new tasks, or now their task is, or it's their turn to start working on a task. You can take care of all of that through automation. So automations are just if-then sentences. If this happens, something else is going to happen automatically. To get more granular, there is a trigger condition for that trigger that when reached, a certain action is going to occur. So let's take this one here, for example. It states when status changes to something, let's notify somebody. So we're going to go ahead and say my trigger is going to be my status column, as I only have one. And when it changes to ready to start, we're going to notify whoever owns that task, and this is what our message is going to be. It's going to say, hey, owner of this task is this status. And that message is actually going to change according to the person or the task that is triggering that notification. So it'll say, hey, person assigned to this task 1 is ready to start, and we'll create that automation. Automations can be compounded together, meaning you can make a string of things happen all based off of a single automation. So since we have dependencies involved and we have a notification going out for a status change, we can automatically make that status change. We can say when the status changes to done of a task, change the status of its dependency to be ready to start. And we'll go ahead and create that automation. We'll add in another for time tracking. As I mentioned, you could do so automatically as well. You can say when status changes to ready to start time tracking, and when it changes to done, it will stop it. You can even create custom automations. So we're missing one that will be very important for us. We need to say when status changes to something, we're going to set the date to today. And we're going to say when the status changes to done, set the completion date to today. And we're going to go ahead and create that automation. So now we're going to see these 4 automations in action. we have task 1 here, and we're going to need to kick off the project, which we'll do so manually. We'll simply just change this to ready to start. You'll notice you'll have an indication about automation running on the bottom right-hand corner here, but they've already started. Because this status is ready to start, time tracking has kicked off here, so we're seeing how long it's going to take to complete this task. A notification has been received. Hey, Mike, task 1 is ready to start, which is the status of the task. When task 1 changes to done, a few things will happen. Time tracking is going to stop here. Notice the completion date was set to December 8th, and we see that our task has been done on time. Because task 2 is dependent on task 1, task 2 is now ready to start, which has kicked off the time tracking for task 2, and another notification was received as I am also assigned to task 2. Hey, Mike, hey, finance team, task 2 is now ready to start. And notice the difference will also calculate automatically, so you'll get real-time updates with your formulas. So now that your project board has been created, there's a few places that you can go from here. If this is a repeatable process and you don't want to go through the practice of creating it over and over again, you can now templatize it. So anything that might be standard from project to project, you can put into a template. So once you're done building your board, you can click the top right-hand corner, 3 dots, head down to more actions, and then save as a template. You'll then be able to save that project as a template, and once it's saved, it will then appear in your template center that we took at the beginning of this video. What I want to show you now is dashboards. As mentioned at the beginning, dashboards allow you to aggregate data from multiple boards, or in other words, multiple processes, into a single view that will enable you to make data-driven decisions for your business. So first, I'm simply just going to duplicate this project example so that we have more data to pull from. So we're going to call this project example 2, and we're going to copy over the board structure and the items, meaning the line items as well as the data that fill the columns. So we essentially have 2 identical projects here. To create a dashboard, you'll navigate to the blue plus button in the top left-hand corner that we originally used to create a board. You're then going to select the dashboard option. We're going to call this our projects reporting, and we're going to go ahead and create that dashboard. It will then prompt you to select what boards that you would like to pull from. In this case, we're going to use project example and project example 2, and it will then give us a blank dashboard. From here, we add widgets. So widgets are simply a variety of different ways that you can visualize information. There's a lot of different widgets that you can select from charts to simply a number where you can aggregate numbers columns, a battery or a progress view, your Gantt charts, and more, which we'll take a look at in a second. To create a widget, it's very simple. You just select the widget that you want to create. In this case, we'll do a chart. Each widget has 3 dots in the top right-hand corner that are going to allow you to select the settings for that widget and set it up. So in this case, we're going to use, maybe instead of a bar, maybe we want to use a pie chart, but the donut one. And in this case, our labels are going to be our completion status. So are things being done on time? Are they not being done on time? We're going to choose values by a specific column. We're simply just going to count them. It's going to be a percentage, and we'll also show empty values, meaning, okay, 80% of our project hasn't been completed yet, so that makes sense why only 20% of it has been done on time. So this is going to represent our task completion status across both of our projects. Notice you can even narrow in on these widgets as well. So I can click a piece of it and it's going to show me what is making up that 20% done on time. It looks like it's task 1, both on project example and project example 2. So it really allows you to dive into the data inside your project. We're going to add another widget here. Maybe it's our battery widget, and it's going to show us progress on each of these projects. But maybe we only wanted to show one project at a time. we can select our boards here and say, only show me project example 2. And we can rename this to be example 2. You can even duplicate these widgets for faster creation. So we're obviously going to have another one here, jump into the settings, and instead of project example 2, this will be project example 1. And you can reorganize these so that it looks a little bit better. So we're going to drag and drop that. And now we have a much cleaner look into our dashboard. So that's example, and that's example 2. We have our task completion status for both of them. Maybe we also want to add in here a combined Gantt chart. So that's going to show us the Gantt chart, not only of one project, but notice both projects. Maybe we'll also throw in our workload view, which is going to enable us to see who is over and under capacity and be able to assign tasks accordingly. So on the left-hand side, you have your resources. Your tasks are represented by line items on the timeline, and the capacity is represented by a circle that is a light blue circle that is filled out by a darker blue circle, which is basically showing how much more capacity a certain individual or a certain resource might have to take on more work in your project. And then maybe we'll add in one more widget here. Maybe we want a chart widget that's going to show us in our x-axis what phase of the project are we actually spending most amount of time on. So what we're going to do is our y, and it's going to be our time tracking, and we're going to do a sum. So it looks like we spent most of our time between both projects on phase 1. And there you have it. So you can continue to add widgets to ensure that you're, again, tracking all of the information that you need for your projects. If you like this video, don't forget to like and subscribe for more Monday.com tips. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me either via email or any of my socials linked below this video.